MIT did a scary experiment. Volunteers used left hands to brush their teeth. After 2 weeks, brain scans showed active areas in their brains increased by 40%. Even more terrifyingly, when researchers asked how they felt, everyone said the same thing. I felt I only used my brain while alive. This isn't science fiction. It's 2019's most shocking neuroscience finding. Do you know why Da Vinci mastered art and science? His surviving manuscripts show he could draw with his left, write with his right. Tesla, too. He trained himself to be ambidextrous. But the craziest part isn't how genius they were, but that Yale proved any ordinary person, if they start using their non-dominant hand, after 30 days, their brains evolve irreversibly. Today I'll tell you why your clumsiness might be the smartest decision you've ever made. But there's a bizarre truth. Scientists found when you use your non-dominant hand, your brain enters a state called emergency mode. U of Washington neuroscientist Benjamin Phillips did an experiment. Had volunteers draw with left hand 20-minute daily for 10 consecutive days. The result was a shocking phenomenon. Their corpus callosum, the bridge connecting the brain's hemispheres, activity increased by a full 40%. Even more outrageous, this change lasted 6 months after training stopped. Phillips said something sounding like sci-fi. We rewired their brains. You might be thinking, what's the big deal? Let me tell you the scary part. Your brain has a structure called the corpus callosum. It has 200 million nerve fibers, the largest white matter structure in the brain. When you always use your dominant hand, less than half of these 200 million fibers work. The remaining neurons are like sleeping giants, waiting to be awakened. And when you start using your non-dominant hand, these neurons begin growing rapidly in 72 hours. Stanford research found this process triggers myelination. Simply put, your neurons wrap themselves in a protective coating, increasing signal speed by 300%. It's like upgrading your brain's copper to fiber work. But that's not the craziest part. Nagoya University in Japan did an experiment. 32 volunteers practiced using chopsticks with left 30 minutes daily for 6 weeks. Even stranger, not only did their left hand become more agile, their prefrontal cortex, responsible for decisions and abstract thought, activity increased by 60%. In other words, when you clumsily pick up food with your left, you're not just training hand coordination, you're upgrading your decision-making, creativity, and even your ability to solve complex problems. Oxford neuroscientists call this neural transmission optimization. What does this mean? It means when you're training one skill, your brain secretly upgrades all other systems. Now for an even more shocking case. In 2018, a 60-year-old blind, left-handed person, her name was Lola Lakova. They had her train memory drawing with right hand, 1 hour daily. After just 10 hours, brain scans showed incredible results. His left-handed habit was completely reversed. Even more ridiculously, the right hemisphere for his left hand was suppressed, and the left hemisphere took over his right hand. This broke all understanding of brain plasticity. Scientists say this proves brain dominance is an innate structure, but the result of functional competition. In other words, your brain is 10,000 times more flexible. So the question is, can this training really make you smarter? The answer is both yes and no. Let me explain. Cambridge did a study in 2022. Tracking study. They found people using their non-dominant hand improved their working memory by 18%. Why? Because when you use your non-dominant hand, your brain must be conscious of every movement. This deep encoding makes your hippocampus, your memory center, generate new neurons. This process is called neurogenesis. But there's a key point. This improvement is specific. A University of Washington study found if you train to draw with your left hand, you'll only get better at left-hand drawing, not better at right-hand drawing. It's like going to the gym to train biceps. You wouldn't expect your chest muscles to grow. But don't be disappointed yet, because deeper mechanisms are at play. When you continuously use your non-dominant hand, your brain undergoes divergent thinking changes. A joint Harvard and Yale study found those who often use their non-dominant hand when facing a problem can think of 25% more solutions than others. Why? Because your left brain handles logic. Your right brain handles creativity. When you force these hemispheres to cooperate more, you're training your brain to see problems differently. This explains why artists like Picasso, Michelangelo, art masters intentionally trained using both hands. They weren't born this way. They forced their brains to rewire. Now for a counterintuitive finding. Some might think, why not just train to be ambidextrous? But a large UK study in 2016 gave a warning. Those naturally ambidextrous, in tests of memory, math, language, and reasoning, scored even lower than single-hand dominant users. Why would that be? Neuroscientists believe the brain is most efficient when it immediately knows which side to use for a task. If both sides are equally strong, there's hemispheric decision-making confusion. It's like two bosses giving you orders at once, and you don't know who to listen to. But this study has a fatal flaw. It studied naturally ambidextrous people, not those trained later. That's different. In fact, the latest research found trained ambidexterity doesn't cause this confusion. On the contrary, it lets your brain switch on demand, like a programmer switching between languages freely. The key is in making both hands equally strong, but in keeping your brain flexible. So what exactly should you do? MIT developed a method called the 20-minute rule. Plan 20 minutes daily, 5 days a week. Do simple tasks with your non-dominant hand. No, simple tasks. Not writing a thesis with your left hand. Day 1. Start with basics. Brushing teeth, opening doors, using the remote. 4 weeks 1 and 2. Do only these simple actions. By week 3 or 4, try writing your name. Draw simple shapes. After week 5, try short sentences, or use your non-dominant hand for the mouse. What's most important in this process? It's that feeling of clumsiness. When you feel frustrated, slow, clumsy, don't get discouraged. That's a sign your brain is growing. It's like going to the gym. Muscle soreness proves you're getting stronger. But beware of a trap. If you feel pain, then stop. If you want to smash things, reduce the time to 10 minutes. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. The goal is not to become Superman, but within 30 days, reteach your brain how to learn. Here's the key insight. Non-dominant hand training's essence isn't to make you ambidextrous, but to force your brain out of autopilot. Did you know 90% of our daily actions are habitual? When you brush teeth with your right hand, your brain is almost shut off. But when you brush with your left hand, your prefrontal cortex is forced to activate. You must focus on this automated task. This forced attention is the fuel for brain growth. Einstein said, intelligence isn't knowledge, but imagination. This is the core value of non-dominant hand training, a new skill. You're training your brain to think differently. When your brain gets used to challenges, it becomes more flexible facing complex problems. So, tonight, brush with your non-dominant hand. Feel that clumsiness, that frustrating slowness. That's not you regressing. That's your neurons crying as they grow. Over the next 30 days, your brain will truly change, not because your left hand got stronger, but because you taught your brain how to learn. Remember, geniuses aren't born. Geniuses force their brains to grow. And no, you know this secret too.